Hi, guys. Welcome back to No Culty Vibes with Cassie and Marie. Or if this is your first time seeing me, welcome. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Everybody hit that like button if you are interested in more culty content. I talk about all things cults, pop culture, and trending topics. And in this video, we're going to talk about the cult commercials that appeared during the Super Bowl this year that everyone in the cult world seems to be talking about. First, we're going to talk about Scientology. So, Scientology, let me get my face how I want it here. Scientology has actually been running commercials during the Super Bowl for the last 11 years, I believe. I think this might be their 12th Super Bowl ad. And they're all very similar, but every few years, I think they do like a whole brand new production. It's thought that the reason Scientology started doing this had to do with a court case where a woman named Debbie Cook in court testimony brought up the fact that Scientology had these reserves of millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars, or I mean, Scientology has billions of dollars in reserves, if we're being honest. Um, but she was asking where this money was going because it was supposed to be used to generate good PR for Scientology. And Scientology never said this is why they did it, but it was very soon after that court testimony that Scientology started making these Super Bowl ads. And the Super Bowl ads themselves are very culty, very like Scientology propaganda. They talk about the fact that people search the word Scientology on the internet like thousands of times a day. And it is an extremely searched topic. There are so many celebrity Scientologists, and so many more people have been speaking out against it, with Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath and Going Clear and other documentaries and all the memoirs. And now with SPTV and YouTube, I feel like more and more people are talking about it every day. And they're right, people are searching it. But Scientology makes these commercials as a way to control the narrative. So the ads are very vague. You don't learn anything about Scientology in the ads, which is by design. And I think it's really interesting that this is also what Scientology tells their celebrity members to say to people when they are asked about Scientology. If someone is bringing up Scientology's abuses in any kind of media or PR with a Scientology celebrity, they're told to answer with, you should find out for yourself. You should learn about it for yourself. You should go pick up a book, read Dianetics. I could tell you what Scientology is to me, but you should figure it out and know what it is to you. And that is, of course, so that they can get you to read their propaganda, their version of things, their narrative, so they can slowly indoctrinate you over time, etc. So the Scientology commercials show people going into Scientology buildings, the Scientology buildings that a lot of these TikTokers and now YouTubers are protesting against, protesting outside of. We know the one in LA has been shut down for many weeks now, but you would never know if you're watching the Scientology Super Bowl ads. They look so beautiful and fun, and you would have a great time going there, pulling the books off the shelves and asking questions and getting the Scientologists to answer for you, and maybe take one of their personality tests, because you must be curious about Scientology, right? You must want to know all about it. And they have this QR code where you can go to their website, learn from them. And if you didn't know, Scientology also has a TV network. They have Scientology TV, on DirecTV or anywhere where you can see several channels. You can see Scientology channels as well. It's wild. Their shows or documentaries that they have on Scientology TV are some of the craziest I've ever seen. But it's all just a PR strategy to get people to stop sharing the negative things about Scientology, the abuses, and to start asking questions and wanting you to learn more from them. And that kind of is the same premise, the same idea behind the other cult commercial that I'm going to talk about that I've seen a lot of mixed feelings about actually online, or not mixed feelings. I actually feel like everybody hates it, but the He Gets Us campaigns have been highly talked about this year. Let me see where I can put myself. Oh, I didn't know I could be that big next to it. Anyway, the Jesus campaigns, the He Gets Us ads that we see during a lot of sporting events, but especially during football. And they have been shown every year for the Super Bowl for a couple of years now. And this year in particular is sending some of the conservative evangelical culty Christians into a tizzy. And I'm going to show you a couple of videos about it in a second. But I personally have wondered about the He Gets Us campaigns for a while because they are so vague. They're not promoting a specific church, they're not trying to sell you anything. And the messages behind them seem very just, they're very soft and like intriguing and similar to the Scientology commercials. Often like have me wanting to Google what is the He Get, like what is He Gets Us, who is behind this. And I have thought of it as being run by a cult for a while now, and I just haven't had time to look into it. And it turns out it's not run by any specific Christian evangelical cult, but by a couple of different charities that do not have to disclose who their donors are. So we don't know exactly who is behind it, but it seems to be some pretty significant like far right Christian organizations that also lobby for different legislation, like anti-LGBTQ legislation, anti-abortion legislation. So originally, the He Gets Us campaigns were run by the Servant Foundation, and they were a $100 million campaign to get these vague commercials out to get people to Google He Gets Us. And the Servant Foundation was connected with some very specific anti-LGBTQ and anti-abortion legislation. But this year, they were taken over by a new charity called the Come Near organization, Come Near Charity. And they've kind of revamped it into a $1 billion campaign. And this time we did get some documentation that showed that the Hobby Lobby family, the Green family, is one of the members of the Green family, is on the board of the Come Near Foundation. And they are one of the big funders of the He Gets Us campaign, which isn't surprising because Hobby Lobby has been greatly criticized in the past for not providing adequate birth control options for their employees, and again, promoting legislation that allows people to discriminate against the LGBTQ plus community. And they've always done several anti-abortion legislation donations and promotions, etc. But this time, first of all, let's talk about how $100 million, let me put my face on here. Originally, $100 million was set aside for these ads over a couple of years. And now $1 billion is projected to be spent on these ads over the next 3 years. A slot for the Super Bowl, for an ad for the Super Bowl and the time slots that they selected, is close to $20 million. How much good do you think could be done with that money that is actually helpful to people, that isn't just evangelizing or trying to rebrand Christianity and give Christians a better image? Like, how many people do you think you could feed? How many hungry people, hungry children could you feed with that amount of money? How many people could you care for? How many people could you house? It just seems wild to me. And this is what makes modern Western evangelical Christianity super culty to me, is this belief that evangelizing and getting people saved is the most important thing above all else, and even more important than taking care of your neighbors and loving each other on this earth, in this life, in this reality where we live right now. More important than any of that is what happens to you after you die. So they are willing to spend hundreds of millions and billions on rebranding, getting that message out, getting people more curious, wanting to come to churches, with this illusion that you will be accepted for who you are, right? So this whole ad campaign was started because the people behind it, if you like Google it or go to their website, they say that Christians have a this are thought of as haters nowadays. They're thought to hate this group and that group, and that just isn't the truth, according to the He Gets Us campaign. They have the greatest love story of all time, and they want to tell that love story, and they want everyone to know that Jesus loves them, and He gets them, and He understands them. But what they don't tell you is that you're accepted for who you are and where you are to come to our church, to come to our group, to come into our belief system, as long as you change once you get here, or once you've been here long enough, or, once you realize the truth of who Jesus is, or the way that we believe in the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the whole point behind the campaign, and why they're willing to spend so much freaking money when that money could easily, in my opinion, go to taking care of people, loving people, all of those things. So I had a lot of criticisms about these campaigns going into it. I thought it's a bit predatory and a bit deceiving, showing, Christians loving all these groups that they supposedly hate. Because while they may not consider it hate, it's still a come be with us so that you can change, right? Well, it turns out that some even further right wing evangelical Christians think that the He Gets Us campaigns are too progressive, too woke. Excuse me, I'm going to have to cough for a second. I'm going to mute my. I'm getting over being sick for literally the longest time ever, and my cough just will not go away. My voice has sounded like this for like 4 days, so I apologize, but I will not subject you to my coughing like I did in my last live video. But what was I saying? Oh, yes. So the even further right, conservative evangelical Christians, think that the campaign was too woke, and they think that it's a bad message to send, that Jesus is accepting of these people. And I will give them credit, because at least those people are honest. They know, and they are willing to tell you up front that if you believe what we believe, if you come into our groups and into our spaces, you are expected to change. You are not expected to look like this. You are expected to see the truth and see the light and become a different person. So somebody tagged me in this TikTok. One of my TikTok followers tagged me, and I wanted to show you guys. Let me see.
Campaign ad last.
Hold on. Restart it. But this is kind of the sentiment behind some of the people who think He Gets Us is too woke.
Campaign is at it again. Their campaign ad last year as well as this year is spreading an outright lie about actual Christianity and who Jesus was. This year, this campaign, they said Jesus did not teach hate, but they are defining the word hate as the word truth, because to them, truth is hatred.
Yeah. So that's kind of the sentiment behind that, right? People like Sarah on TikTok will just full right out admit, no, we do hate these groups. But she wouldn't call, to her, we call it hate, she calls it truth, whatever she wants to call it. Those groups are not accepted. And she thinks it's wild that people would create a marketing campaign that makes it look like they are. And I actually think in a lot of ways that's less culty than deceiving people with a version of reality. And then once you get into the fold, once you've invested a lot of time, maybe a lot of money, maybe you've built a big community there, a lot of friends, you're less likely to leave it. You're less likely to change your mind and might feel more pressured to change who you are. So, I mean, kudos to her and people like Sean Foyt, which I'll show you his video as well. But he went on kind of a rampage on X talking about how terrible it is. Hold on, I got a cough again. Let me know if you've seen either the Scientology commercial or the He Gets Us campaign, whether you're live now and in the chat or on the replay. I want to see what you thought of them, if you clocked them as cult commercials, which I guess you probably would for Scientology if you are into the culty stuff, you're aware. Anyway, so Sean Foyt was posting on Twitter about the He Gets Us campaign. And he posted this verse from Second Timothy with this image from the commercial, which Sean Foyt described as the part that bothered him the most. He actually posted a Facebook video. I'm going to show you part of it in a little bit. But before he talks about the part that I'm going to show you, he specifically said that this part in the commercial bothered him the most. And he said a priest was washing the feet of an obviously LGBT person. And he just thought that it was horrible. So he shared 2 Timothy 4:3, for the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. So he's basically saying, listen, you're conforming to society. We don't want the world to think that we're just like them. We want to be different and set apart. And that's what it means to really be a Christian. And he also posted, this over here. He said, why do people think Jesus needs a rebrand? Probably because people are leaving the churches in droves, Sean Foyt. Probably because churches cannot fill their seats anymore, and it's becoming a really big problem. And then he also tweeted, can't wait for the Go and Sin No More Jesus Super Bowl ad to come out. That one is going to be fire. So he wants like the real message to come out. And this is part of what he said in his
that's obviously the most perverted, the most.
Yeah, he's crazy. Hold on.
In this marketing campaign, you're sending these very weird signals to a generation that's obviously the most perverted, the most confused about their gender, the most confused about the idea of abortion and pro-life. And they don't even know these truths, right? You're dealing with a generation that's so biblically illiterate and you're telling them, if you want to look like Jesus and not a hater, you need to go and wash everybody's feet, because that's what our Jesus would do. No mention of repentance, no mention of turning your heart to the Lord, no mention.
And again, I hate giving Sean Foyt credit because he is my literal nemesis. If you ever followed me on TikTok and saw any of my Sean Foyt videos, you know that I consider Sean Foyt my nemesis that doesn't know I exist, that probably does not care what I have to say about him at all. He is my literal nemesis. I do not like agreeing with him, giving him props, like whatever. But he's someone that says the quiet part out loud. And he is saying, why would you tell people that we would accept them with no repentance and no changing their ways and no whatever he said. So at least he's honest. But I also wanted to point out the dangers of this kind of rhetoric from people like Sean Foyt and talk about the fact that this is a real threat to our government and our laws, and Christian nationalism is on the rise, and these beliefs are extremely harmful to marginalized groups, especially the LGBTQ plus community. Sean Foyt said when he talked about this part right here that this picture shows from the ad, that was the part that bothered him the most. And right after that was when he said this generation is the most perverted, the most perverse generation, the most confused about their gender. He thinks that the LGBTQ community is the most perverse. That is really dehumanizing. It's extremely othering. It is those kind of beliefs about entire groups of people that are doing nothing wrong, that have feelings that they can't control, that they're born with, feelings that are perfectly fine and perfectly normal and healthy, are now the most perverse. And when you have a belief that strong, you are willing to do whatever it takes to eliminate those kinds of people, push those kinds of people down, vote for laws that are going to harm those people, that are going to take away those people's rights, because you see them as perverse. You see them as not real people. And these are the same things that the people behind the He Gets Us campaign believes. They just are trying to rebrand. So, like I've said a million times, they can get you in the fold and change you over time, indoctrinate you slowly, which is what happens when you join a cult. That's how they get you to believe these extreme things. Nobody joins a cult. They join something good and beautiful, something that is shown as loving your neighbor, washing each other's feet, loving people that you might disagree with, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on forever. I assume if you're into the cults thing and the pop culture and the trending topics, you get what I'm saying. Maybe you're into deconstruction. You've been around here a minute. I could go on and on about this forever, but that's all I had for this video. Thank you so much for watching, whether you were live or whether you're on the replay. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Like I said, Tegan, thank you so much for commenting and giving me a heart. I appreciate it so much. I am still getting used to the YouTube space and going live. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next video. I actually might go live again tonight and talk about the celebrity cult members that we saw at the Super Bowl. So stick around if you want to see more of that. Bye, guys.